guys, welcome back to Ashire Books. Today I'm here to do my September Part 2 wrap-up. For the second half of September, I read, I think it was 7 books, which was pretty good. I was happy with that number, and I really enjoyed a lot of them. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first book that I read was The Conspiracy of Us by Maggie Hall. This one I have had on my TBR shelf for so long, and I don't know why I let it sit there for so long because I really enjoyed it. So I ended up not only reading this one, but I read the other 2 books in this trilogy as well. So I actually picked this up on audio off of my Overdrive app, and I really enjoyed it. That's what kind of sucked me into this series. I listened to the first 2 on audio, and then I picked up the 3rd one in book form because it wasn't available, but those are since gone back to my library, which is why I don't have them. This book follows a girl named Avery West who, it starts off very normally, and her mom have moved around her whole life. Every time she gets settled somewhere, her mom says they have to move for like business purposes, but she never really knows what that is. She doesn't know who her father is. There's a lot of mystery around her life, and she kind of finds out that her family is tied to a sort of secret organization, and it kind of just jumps off from there. I don't really want to say too much more because I feel like this is one of those books you really need to go into without knowing much, because it really takes you on a ride, and it's just so interesting to see where it goes. It's definitely fast-paced. I really liked this a lot. I feel like the tagline, I think on the back of the book, says it's like Da Vinci Code meets National Treasure, and that's, I think, an apt description. There's treasure hunting, there's mysteries, you're trying to figure out all these clues that they left. So if you're into anything like that, I definitely recommend this. There's also a really cute romance in this. Just a warning, there is a love triangle in this book. However, as someone who doesn't like a love triangle, I really enjoyed this romance between Avery and a couple other people. I thought it was done really well, and it made sense to me, and it didn't seem implausible. So I definitely like this. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I think I gave the rest of the series 5 out of 5 stars as well. I'm really glad I picked it up, and I love that I finished the series. This book I read was Decidedly with Baby by Stina Lindenblatt. And this is an adult romance about kind of an accidental pregnancy. I liked it. It was okay. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I don't know exactly why I picked this up. I feel like I just wanted something really fluffy to read. And it was fluffy, and it was cute. It's about a girl named Holly who's very business driven, very just wanting to do her best in her job, but not necessarily start a family right now. She's living in San Francisco, but she's from Australia, so she's on a work visa, and she meets Josh, who is a hockey player, and they kind of hit it off as friends. They get along really well, but one thing leads to another, and they kind of have more than a friendship going on, but it's kind of that friends with benefits situation, and then you have a baby come along. If you're looking for something that's really fluffy, I'd maybe recommend it, but it wasn't my favorite. I felt like the choices that the characters made weren't very smart, and I felt like they were repeated over and over again, which just infuriates me in a book. The characters were smart people, so I felt like they should have made smarter choices. Overall, it wasn't my favorite, but it was cute. The next book I read was An Offer from a Gentleman by Julia Quinn. This is the 3rd book in the Bridgerton series. I did skip the 2nd book. I'm going to go back to it next, but I just really wanted to read this one because Benedict, the hero in this book, just really intrigued me. So it follows Benedict, who is the 2nd oldest Bridgerton brother, and the heroine is Sophie, who is actually pretty much the equivalent of like a servant in another household. And Sophie's background is very mysterious, and it's just definitely retelling in a way of Cinderella. So it kind of is the same setup. She's an illegitimate daughter of a wealthy man, and her father passes away, and her stepmom and her stepsisters decide to basically make her into their servant, give her nothing. She thinks she has been left no money, and she has just really no future. But Sophie is such a sweet character. I just wanted her to have the best. She had the best outlook on life, and it was just such a positive person. So Sophie, there's the masked ball being held by Violet Bridgerton, the matriarch of the Bridgerton family, and Sophie is able to go under kind of crazy circumstances. So she goes, but it's a masked ball, of course, and she meets Benedict and they dance and there's a bit of romance going on, but it's only for one night. Because when it strikes midnight, she has to go home before she's found out. And it kind of goes from there. I will say there are definitely differences between the Cinderella story, but the beginning is very much Cinderella-esque. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. The dynamic between Sophie and Benedict was beautiful because they really, you could feel that they loved each other, and I liked the class differences. So it wasn't necessarily a question of do they love each other, but it was also a question of how do we be together, because he was a much higher class than she was, and that just wasn't done back then. So I really recommend this if you like historical romances. Definitely check this out. Next, I read The Dark Unwinding by Sharon Cameron. This one is a historical, I don't know if it's really historical romance. It does have romance in it though. And this is YA, and this takes place in England, and it's about a girl named Catherine who is sent to this country estate out on the moors, kind of the middle of nowhere, to basically see what her uncle is up to, because her aunt, who she lives with, is pretty much convinced that her uncle is like clinically insane, and she wants Catherine here to have him placed in an insane asylum because she thinks that her uncle is spending all the family money. Her aunt is not a very nice person. So it was very interesting storyline. It kind of goes from there. Catherine gets there. It's this big mysterious house. The household staff, as well as like the people in the town around it, are very like mysterious. You don't really know what's going on, but they're very protective of her uncle. And she kind of finds out that like maybe everything isn't as it seems and there's something else going on. This definitely had some steampunk aspects to it, but it wasn't like super steampunky, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, I believe, and there is a romance in this as well that was really cute. It wasn't like the main storyline, but it was there, and there was actually a bit of a mystery in this. I did kind of figure out some of it before it happened, but it was still really enjoyable. I do plan on reading the second book. The last book that I read this month was A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This follows a scholar named Diana Bishop who is studying alchemy at Oxford, and she's also a witch. So she's from a long line of Bishop witches, and she doesn't want to be a witch and she doesn't want to use her powers. She doesn't want to do anything part of that because she thinks that is what kind of caused her parents to die, was using their magic. So there's this whole mystery behind this book. She finds while she's at Oxford this book, and it's this mythical book that all of the different creatures, the vampires and the daemons and the witches, have been looking for years. And she meets a vampire named Matthew, and it was so good. This is kind of like an adult version of like a Harry Potter or Twilight or something. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I'm really excited to read the next one. I will say the beginning was a little bit slow, so give it a little bit. I give it to like 150 pages to get in because there was a lot of plot set up. But it has history in it, it has magic. I loved the history parts of it. I think the book 2 is going to be great. If you love history, if you love kind of just different creatures and stuff, definitely give this a try. I loved it. Okay guys, that is my wrap up for September. Please let me know down below what your favorite book was for the month of September. Like or subscribe to the video if you'd like to, and I'll see you guys next time.